Hi, my name is Arunda Mitra, and today I am representing Azure Zurich User Group for the global Azure event, 13th May. So, before I start, I just want to lay out my presentation. So, I will be running the PowerPoint presentation first. I will go through my topic, and then what will happen is then I will run like 3 or 4 demos depending upon my topic, covering all the aspects of my topic. So before I start, let me present my screen. Okay, and I will now be sharing my PowerPoint presentation. So this is my topic today, Infra-as-Code blueprints. Um, Again, as I mentioned that this is a global Azure event, and I am speaking on behalf of Azure Zurich User Group. As you can see that Azure User Group is also pinned in the map of the global Azure event 2023. I just wanted to take a snap of that, because I'm representing Azure Zurich User Group. A little bit about myself. My name is Ananda Mitra, and I am a Microsoft MVP in Developer Technologies. I am also a cloud solutions and a DevOps architect, technical blogger, speaker, traveler, and citizen of the world. You can find me in GitHub. I'm in dev.to. I mostly write my blogs in dev.to. I am pretty much up to date in my session nights from where I normally apply for my speaker sessions. Like the current one, I'm also available on LinkedIn and Twitter. All the links are below mentioned. And today I will be talking about infrastructure as a code blueprints. So this is the agenda I have brought together. The agenda is very simple. I'm going to explain you the concepts of infrastructure as a blueprint, what exactly it is, and then what was my motivation which led to the concept of infrastructure as a code blueprints. Then, of course, the technology stack involved in it. Examples of the infrastructure as a code blueprints. What are the scenarios which you can build yourself. In order to help the organization or help your team. So those kind of real world examples. And then there is a slide about mitigation. The mitigation slide will demonstrate that whatever problem statements which I have identified in the motivation slide, was those problems mitigated with infrastructure as a code blueprint. So uh, this is all about the slides, and then we will show like it will be a demo. I have, I think, 3 or 4 small demos because I wanted to cover all the aspects of the infrastructure as a code blueprint topic. So let's jump into it. So the concept, infrastructure as a blueprint, as I already I normally say to everybody, this is not to be confused with the Azure Blueprint Service. This is completely a different concept. This concept I came upon, when I started to have, think about, how I'm going to, if I'm writing infrastructure as a code, and then how I'm going to make it repeatable, reusable, how I can not only repeatable, reusable, or dynamic, but it's also like, how can I make, I could take the project design parameters, and how can I design it in a proper way that the effort is less, but we gain more. Um, because it's always like writing a lot of codes, lots of lines of codes. You take it any scripting language, any whether it's Terraform, Biceps, anything. So how could I make it a little bit more easy for everyone, and how it can also help the organization, and of course help me and my team. That is how it started. And then when I'm writing this blueprints, infrastructure as a code blueprints, it is basically like I am adhering the organization standards, and anything which I'm writing or anything which I'm deploying as a part of my blueprint, these are all security compliant, which means that the security things has been checked with my security officers, vetted, and then I'm rolling it out with my blueprints. It also gives me a huge advantage to rapidly build and start any of the use cases, whether it's a greenfield or brownfield, doesn't matter, because the blueprints are designed in a way which can fit it into your greenfield, or it can fit it into your brownfield projects or use cases, whatever you can say. And then the final thing with this blueprint topic, with infrastructure as a blueprint topic, is that you can speed up the development. Like like a use case is coming, and then instead of like for example, earlier I'm taking 10 days, now I will be taking 2 days to do it, for example, like so that is how the development timeline narrows down, and it helps me to deliver much faster. So this is a little bit about the background about why infrastructure as a code blueprint. So it's just like um, if you are deploying a, like for example, a storage account, for example. Now, if I think that that storage account is used by any other service, for example, Azure Functions always need a storage account. Then what I will do is I will make a complete package of it. And instead of my uh, DevOps engineer writing first the app service plan, then the function app, then the storage account, networking, diagnostic settings, RBAC. Instead of they writing it, what I will make a module of the whole thing. And all they have to do is just have to reference it, which means that it makes it much, much simpler, because that I have clubbed together one or more services. I have clubbed together RBAC, I have to club together diagnostic settings, and these are all security compliant. All they have to do is just write like minimal lines of code, because they know that in the backend, everything is already prepared. That is the whole concept of infrastructure as a code blueprint. I'll move to the next slide. Motivation. As I said, the motivation of infrastructure as a code blueprint was to me like identifying the problem statement which I had in my day-to-day architecture and automation build and run. So this is my core area which I do day to day. And then I started to realize that, okay, if some team member is leaving, of course he has contributed a lot to the organization and to the team, but there is also some things which you can never document, and which you can never replace. That is the experience. So if the guy is moving out from your team, he's taking the whole experience away from him. No matter how much KT you do, no matter how much a document you ask him to prepare, or it doesn't matter. So how to how to make sure that to the closest spot possible, to the closest proximity, that we can onboard new members in Azure and DevOps team effectively, and so that if my onboarding is really really good enough, and scalable enough, or it has a pattern, it has a process, then anytime if somebody is joining your team or leaving your team, it will not affect the delivery, or it will not affect the that dependency thing in your Azure and DevOps team. And this was also one of the things that how should I do it, and is it possible or not? And then I thought that I mean, like with infrastructure as a code blueprint, I'm not 100% I'm saying that it is possible, but I'm close to that. I'm much closer to what I was before. The other problem statement is like improving the delivery of the Azure project. Of course, no questions asked. This is like no brainer. I mean, like we have to be very very delivery focused. And third is like the scalability of the DevOps team. Now, like there is another approach that as the project is growing more and more, you hire more people in your team. But then the more people you hire on the team, it means that it's more overhead. Do you, as a person, as a single person who is a technical lead, do you have time to manage like a team of 20 or 30 DevOps engineer? Do you really have time to do you really have time to discuss with them, do the requirement gathering, understand the problems, and that I mean, like you will struggle a lot, And then there's a question that is it the right way of doing that? Number of projects is directly proportional to the number of resources, and there again, the answer I said that if I am having these blueprints, the modules, the blueprints, and everything ready, then you can do wonders with handful of resources, handful of technicians, and that this is where it was another problem statement which I try to identify. Then I was also like since I am an advocate of Azure DevOps and Terraform. I normally read about the HashiCorp case studies, and I mean, like a few months back, HashiCorp did publish two really good case study, and those are the links present in my slide. One states that should my team really need to know Terraform? It this case study indicates that the infrastructure or the platform team, you should be the platform team rather than being a bottleneck of every project. Because if you are deploying everything, then and if you are developing everything and you're deploying everything, then you become the bottleneck for every project. Instead of that, why not to be the platform team where you are preparing all those modules and blueprints and somebody else is consuming it? And that is exactly the second case study, which is Terraform for platform teams. So it means that platform teams is actually developing the solution for you, and you are just and the project team is just consuming it. It's just like a pub-sub model. I mean, platform team, which is us, I mean, like we are publishing something and then somebody is consuming it, and then you are no more into the critical path of the project, but you are more into innovations, you're more into engineering, and you are always keeping your automations, your modules, your blueprints, everything up to date. And the consumers, which can be like uh, the application team, developers, anybody, they can consume your modules and blueprints, and they can then support their project without even you then developing the whole solution and then deploying the whole thing. It doesn't make sense. This is where the case study comes in. Please spend some time that it is a real good case study. It will definitely open some new ideas in your head. I'm pretty sure about it. So these were certain motivations, which with which I coined this this topic, which is the infrastructure as a code blueprints. The technology stack, it's very easy here. There's no rocket science out here. It's of course, and as I said, I'm a more like Azure DevOps and Terraform advocate, but this whole thing can be done by biceps, Azure CLI, PowerShell. As a CI/CD platform, you can use GitHub Actions or maybe any other tool, any other CI/CD tool. But in this session, as I wrote here, that we'll only talk about Azure DevOps, Azure CLI, PowerShell, and Terraform. Because this is what I'm working with my day to day, and this is what my demo is all about. But again, as I said, it can be any scripting language. It doesn't matter, to be very honest, because infrastructure as a code, blueprint is a concept. It's not a technology. So feel free to use whichever it is. Moving to the examples of infrastructure as a code blueprint, it's very simple. Like when somebody is carving out subscription from your enterprise agreement, or I think it's no more called an enterprise agreement, but I remember it's something like NCA. I really don't know the full form, but they don't call it enterprise agreement. That I'm very sure of it. So from the enterprise agreement, when you're carving out, which is called like the subscription vending, so you're providing subscription to your workload team, then that subscription is pretty much blank. And then you need to have like the common resources or or like the concept that, okay, when you're carving out the subscription from your enterprise agreement or MCA, you should have certain resources by default, which is homogeneous across all the subscription. So that is also a good candidate for Blueprint. Then becomes a resource group blueprint. So whenever for any of the project uh, you're deploying, you're deploying resource group, few resources which are very common, which is always there in every project, no matter what, you will always require it. Of course, resource group is one. Second is Key Vault. Key Vault has access policies. Key Vault also has some networking, like the VNet integration and firewall whitelisting. Then you will need a log analytic workspace, for the diagnostic settings of the other services. You will also need a storage account if you want to archive some logs. Some logs you want to push to log analytics, some logs you want to push in resource group. And then you might be also requiring a user assigned managed identity, because that is now going on a very, very wide scale, passwordless, like managed identity is passwordless. So, you use it in a lot of services. So in my opinion, whenever you are deploying a resource group, these are the resources which is by default used by every project. So instead of deploying it separately, why don't I make a blueprint out of it? And I call it a resource group blueprint. I just make it. I just put together all the separate modules in one big giant module, make it a blueprint, and just hand over to my DevOps team. So no matter next time a project is coming, the first thing which they do is run the resource group blueprint as soon as the subscription is available, and then it basically deploys everything, whatever I said. And the thing which will take you maybe 1 or 2 days, again doing the same repetitive things, you can always do it with resource group blueprint. Same with DevOps project. Every project which you're onboarding, you might need a DevOps project. There might be a certain configuration which you might be requiring it. Why not to make a blueprint? Catalog and access packages. Whenever you are deploying a project in Azure and onboarding an application in Azure, you will be creating a lot of groups, because those groups will be associated with role-based access control. But what happens to the group membership? How would you address that? If, for example, a project has 20 AAD groups, would you make every application owner like the owner of those AAD groups, or is there a better way? So there comes the catalog and access package. It's nothing but it's a part of the Azure entitlement management, identity governance, and catalog is a placeholder where you host your access packages. And access packages are the one you create where you create your policies, you onboard the AAD groups, and then you give the appropriate permission to the application owners, so that they have the flexibility to add and remove any user from any group. And the beauty of access package, apart from this, is you can add and remove members from the AAD group. You can take. You don't have to go group by group, but you can club together all those group into one access package, and then when you assign or when you remove, that user is removed from all the groups. So this is also one of the blueprints, one base framework which you can prepare. And as soon as the project is deployed and everything, at least you can deploy the first base framework. For example, you want to give everybody a subscription reader access, but on the resource group level, you want to give a contributor access. And You might want to give the application owner a cost management contributor access as well, in order for them to create budgets and alerts and everything in the subscription. So these kind of few things, you can identify, and then you can make a blueprint for catalog and access package. And then as soon as the subscription is provided, you run the resource group blueprint. Once it is done, then probably the next step you can do is you can run the catalog and the access package blueprint. And then, of course, if they have a requirement for DevOps project, you run the DevOps project blueprint. It means that, 20 or 30% of your project work has already progressed within, within an hour or two. It's just that, you have to just write a few lines of code instead of, writing maybe 100 lines of code. You maybe you might land up, writing, you might be landing up writing maybe like 10 or 20 lines of code instead of writing 100 lines of code. This is the beauty of the blueprints. And again, you can club together resource group, DevOps project, catalog all into one, and then again, you can play around with that. There are a lot of different ways of doing it as well. Then, of course, there's a network blueprint. I don't have to explain. Network is like, VNet, subnets, NSGs, route tables. If you have a DDoS plan, you can attach it to the VNet. If you have private DNS zones, go ahead. Then there is like, web app blueprint. What does web app blueprint means? It means that, whenever you are deploying a app service or a web app, so you will always, most of 80% or 90%, I've seen that a web app always comes with an app service plan, which is mandatory because from there, they are getting the compute. The app service has to be associated with an application insight for the real-time log streaming and everything. The app services, if you want to make it private, then you have to have two different subnet, one for inbound and one for outbound. And the app service is like a web stack, so it will always require an Azure SQL database. So why not to make a blueprint? So anytime they ask for it, you just deploy the blueprint and this whole small ecosystem gets deployed, and you don't even have to struggle that, okay, what my other team this here and things, few changes here and there, minute few lines of code you write instead of writing 100, 200 or 300 or creating multiple files in Terraform, and you don't even have to do anything. It's just like as simple as that. Same with Databricks. Databricks can be deployed, integrating with a storage account, integrating with network, and also after that, you can run a small PowerShell command to mount the storage account to the interactive Databricks cluster. And finally, AKS Blueprint as well. AKS, AKS itself has is associated with an ACR. AKS also needs an application insight, and AKS also needs a log analytic workspace, which is the bare minimum which AKS will always require. Now, the other thing you can also do is you can configure AGIC, which is the application gateway ingress controller. So instead of having an Nginx, you have application gateway ingress controller for AKS. So you can bundle this up, make a blueprint, and make it available for your application owners so that they can deploy and start using it. So these are I pulled out the best I can. There might be others as well. I will keep on working on it. This is work in progress, but this is what I am working, and this is what I am. A few things are built, a few things I'm building, and this is what I wanted to share with you all regarding how we can coin this whole infrastructure as a code blueprints. Finally, the mitigation, as at the start of the slide, I already told you that we identify the problem statement, and at the end, after explaining everything with the examples and everything, we look into it that did infrastructure as a code blueprints solve those problem statements? So let's talk about the first one where we talked about that, how to make the onboarding of the users, a little bit easy. And this is where, I identified that, okay, I now, if I have these concepts and everything in my organization, then it reduces my requirement of a skilled DevOps engineer, which is very, very difficult in today's job market to find. So, this is the first thing, which I can mitigate because, I am preparing or I am building this, not only the in-house capability, but also the in-house concept in order to in order to mitigate this problem statement. Uh, and then, onboarding, if, I'm not hiring a skilled DevOps engineer, since I have a concept and I have a process, I have the automations, then, onboarding a DevOps resource in my team who has a very limited to a basic knowledge of infrastructure as a code and DevOps, he might have done few things in lab, he might have studied it from documentations and everything, but he can quickly be taken into my team because he doesn't have to develop, because he just have to know how to use it, because from day one, he doesn't have to be like, overwhelmed that, oh, I have to prepare this, I have to do this, I don't know, I have to deliver this, but also at the same time I have to learn. It's too much for anybody. So it gives advantage to both sides, and that's what I wrote. From the DevOps team perspective, like if I'm running a team, then, mm, from my perspective, that I can close the hiring and onboard it really fast. And if I think from the user perspective, he is getting the learning curve, wherein, he's learning in a slow pace or in his own time. He's also delivering because I have the process automation and the concept available in my organization. And he's also not feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, or he's not thinking low of himself, because the other guy is fast or much more skilled in Terraform or Azure DevOps, and he is just a new beginner, something like that. So it's a win-win for both parties. This is what is like, I is like, I address this problem statement. And then, of course, there is a less time in knowledge transfer, and there is no impact in delivery. Uh, I mean, like, as soon as the guy is there, we just have to provide him the respective access and, explain him that, how we use it. Maybe a day or two or three, ask him one day to just try on his own few things, and maybe on day 7 or day 10, he's productive. So less time in knowledge transfer, and then he's ready for delivery. And that scalability of team also improves with time, because based on the use cases, more infrastructure as a code blueprints will be getting added, allowing one resource for multiple projects. As I said, that, does it make sense that, we have like, one-to-one mapping to projects, or maybe is this a right fit? But I don't see that it is a right fit. If you have the concept, or if you have the process, if you have the automations available, I strongly believe that the scalability of the team improves. This is my these are my few things, which I think, we can mitigate these are problem statements with infrastructure as a code, modules, blueprints, and everything. In the demo, I mean, like, as I said, I'm going to run. Now I see that I have 4 demos, so I will run 4 demos, which will be very, very quick. What's the one is the resource group blueprint, in which I will show that how it works, and then, I will try. I will also run a pipeline, which is setting and configuring DevOps project. Then there is also one, where I'm configuring app registration, and not only I'm configuring app registration, but I'm configuring every single options inside an app registration, just to give a idea that, these kind of blueprints always helps. And then I'm going to deploy the sample framework of access package and catalog, which is reusable for any project which is onboarded in Azure. Okay. Um, so I'm going to finish my PowerPoint slide because, I don't want to flip it. So, any questions, in the end of the slide, I have my email address noted out. Feel free to ask me, write me email, contact me over LinkedIn or Twitter, and happy to answer any of your questions. Of course, special thank to Thomas. He's the one who contacted me, and he is the one who gave the opportunity. And of course, Manuel Meyer. They both are the organizers for Azure Civic User Group. I'm very fortunate to be associated with them, and they are the one who's spinning Azure Zurich User Group to the global Azure event. And as I said, I'm representing Zurich User Group in the global Azure event. Okay, so here in this page, you see my email addresses. Feel free to write me an email, or like, at the start of the slide, there was like, my LinkedIn and my Twitter, everything was there. Feel free. These slides and all the codes and everything which I'm doing is or will be available in my GitHub, which I will show you shortly. So let's jump to my GitHub, and then we can see that how we are doing it. So so this is my GitHub. You can see that like I have pretty much everything out here, that my overall stats, my blog series, my speaker sessions, and everything. I have to update a few more, which I've done few more, which has not yet been updated. My pull request, issues raised, and everything. So feel free to go through it. I hope that you might find something interesting. Um, this is something, and here you see that in the follow and subscribe. Also, you have all the link to connect with me. Okay, and this is basically the GitHub repository which I've created. It only has a README page at the moment, but I will update everything after my session, and then you can find everything here. So this is just about the general things. So here I have already placed the link of my demo code, but my presentation is yet not been uploaded here. So I will upload my presentation here, and I will make sure that the links of the demos are working properly and you are able to access all the codes and everything. Okay. Cool. So as I said, let's start with something very cool, which I did a long time back. I think last year I did. Let's see that, what is the blueprint for the DevOps project. Okay. So I will now go here, and I have my pipeline out here, and what I will do is run the pipeline, and then I'll come back to you, showing the code and everything. Okay, so I will go here, and then I will run a new pipeline. You see that, the pack tokens and everything is available here and everything, but this is like temporary. You can always put it in Key Vault, or you can make it like, like somebody who could provide it. But these are the runtime variables which I'm doing. Pack token is required for Azure DevOps to provision the DevOps project. This is my organization name. This is my DevOps project name. You can change it. And then I have put a small description. Okay. And now what I will do is I will run this code. Okay. And I will go here. As it is running, what I will go is I will flip back to this one, and you see that I've started with point 2, okay, like setup and configure DevOps project. If I right click this and open in a new tab, okay, you will see the entire code out here. Okay, so there's the entire code, what I'm doing and everything. Let me increase the font for you guys if you are not able to look at it. Okay, I think 150 is good enough. So you see that, this is all the lines of code, uh, which is available, that what everything is doing. I'm not going for everything, conscious of time, because, I have another 3 demos to, to show, but feel free to go here and look into the code. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, cool. Now, if I go here, then just to tell you that from here, you can go to my blog site on this particular link, which you see, this particular link. And anything which is written in my blog is version control, which means that it is also available in this README file as well. So I have presented this topic in a few of the meetups, and and this is what my pipeline does, and it has all the details. It has all the details regarding what's it's the code and everything, and then it explains that what it has been doing. So everything is there. So have a look, and then we can if you have any questions, so you can do. So let's see if the pipeline executed. Okay, so if you can see that the pipeline executed successfully, I will just increase the font a little bit so that you guys can see it properly. Let's make it 150. So it created a DevOps project and it initialized the repo and everything. So let me explain what happened. So I'll go to my organization, and here you see that AM01 project has been created. So this was one of the things AM01 got created. Then in the repos, it created three repos together, AM01. When you're creating a DevOps project, then by default, the uh, with the same name, a repository gets created. So I created additional two. But this is just the creation of the repository, but you have to also initialize that repository. Since the repositories are initialized, that is why you see that there is a README page and it has the name of the repo. Okay. Then we come to the pipelines part. You see that I have created two folders, one for application and one for infrastructure. Then I created one environment named dev, because if you want to run your YAML-based pipeline and if you want to attach an approval for a task or for before you want to execute, you have to attach it to the environment. Then only you can use the approval. So this is something. And then, I go to the project settings, and here I go to the agent pool, and I have created an agent pool called AM Pool 01, where you can put your DevOps project. Oh yeah, DevOps build agent. I'm very sorry. It's early in the morning. Then finally, I go to my project settings, and if I scroll down to the repository section, here, in the repository sections, you will see that you have all the three repos. And now if you click any one of it, let's start with AM001 infrastructure, okay? So this is all the settings and everything, and you scroll down, and here, you have to first click on policies, and then if you scroll down here, you will see the main branch. If you click on the main branch, you will see that I have configured this branch policy main branch, that you need minimum number of reviewers. You need to link a work item when you are raising a pull request. If there is any comment, that resolution has to be done. I'm limiting the merge types. And then, I am also including automatically a reviewer required. Now, if you see this, it is exactly the same for the other one. Now, first I was in infrastructure, now go to the application. Again, I go to the main branch, and you see exactly the same branch policies. So you can do a lot like this, no questions asked, you can do a lot, but at the moment, I have configured this because, this is my requirement for more or less every project, and I don't have to. So all my engineer or all my platform team has to do is go to the pipeline, fill those information, and just run the code, and it gets deployed. So that is one concept of Blueprint which I wanted to show, and this is what I tried to explain that as a part of my demo. That this is like the one which I explained you. Now let's take point 3. I will come back to the point 1 at the last because I have to run the code, and it takes a little bit of a time. That is why I'm taking it at the last. Now I will go to the app management with AD, Group Graph, and DevOps. So I told you that I'm also creating app registration, and the app registrations which I'm creating, I'm making sure that all the configurations and everything is getting it's configured on the pipeline and everything. So let's take the pipeline there. I will click on the pipeline. I will go all. And you see that I have this app registration set up in config. So I'll go to the version 1.1. I will go this one, take this one, and I will run new. When I'm taking run new, why I'm doing this, then I don't have to fill all this information. It is coming automatically from the last run. That is why I'm going. Otherwise, if you click on the new run, from outside, then you have to fill all those information. And just being conscious of time, that is why I'm doing this. So you see that I have to provide resource group, I have to provide keyword, I have to provide a service principal name. Let's call it like 2000, EM test 2000. And then I have a redirect URL, and all these things are subject to change. You can change it whatever you want to do. Okay. And you will see that where it is going to. So I have a redirect URL, which I just took it from a dummy URL from Microsoft documentation. And this is one of my users in my directory services. And this keyword I needed because whenever I'm generating an app registration, I'm also generating a secret, and that secret is getting stored in this keyword. So now I will run this, and then let's see that what happens. Okay, it is progressing. Let's see. Okay, so we are progressing. So token configuration is going on. I think in a minute it should be over, or maybe a less than minute. Let's see. Okay, awesome. So it got completed. So now we see, now let's go to the portal, and then we see that, if it got created. Now you see that AM test 2000 got created. Now, what did my automation do? So my automation created an app registration. Then if I go to authentication, then you see that it has configured the redirect URI and it enabled the ID tokens. This is what my automation did. Then if I go to clients and secrets, it generated a secret. I will go back to the keyword to show that if it got stored after I finish this one. Then I go to token configuration, and then you see that it has added everything what I asked for the token configuration. You see that everything is here. Let's make it a little bit big. Okay. So now you see that, it is like configured everything. Now I go to the API permission. So it has, you can see that it has added all the Microsoft Graph API rights. Of course, you cannot grant admin consent of a pipeline because it needs a global administrator. And my pipeline, it doesn't have global administrator, and it will not be able. So this is one of the limitations. So after you do this, you have to either in your production tenant, you have to elevate your permission and then grant admin consent. Okay. Then I have like an expose API. I'm not doing anything. In app roles, I'm creating an app role. Okay, it is not reflecting. Let me refresh the whole page. In the app roles, you see that the readers got created, and then I added the owner, which is the UN user. But you also see that the service principal, I mean, the service connection with which I'm creating it also got added. So this is all I'm doing. Now, as I said that, we generated the secret. So, and let's see that, if it is there. So I'll go to the subscription. I will go to my subscription. Then I will go to my resource group. Okay. And once I go to my resource group, I will go to the demo blog RG. And here I have AMPOC KV. If I go to my secrets, you see that I have AM test 2000 created. So it is just taking the name. And then if I go inside and if I scroll down below and if I ask them to show the secret value, you see the secret here. It is exactly that one. So this is what is like, my second demo, which is the app registration. So far what we have done is we have completed point 2 and then we have completed point 3. Okay. Now let's look into the part where we have to create the catalog and the access package. Okay. So again, before I go, you can simply go here, right click, and then I will close the Power DevOps one, and this is the one. So you see that, here is the code again. You can find the code out here. Feel free to go through it. Okay, everything is here. And then, I will be going back 1 second. Yeah. And then again, you can go from here to my blog site. So you can always use this link. And then, if you want to read from GitHub, then feel free to use the README file because it's exactly the same like my blogs. So everything is here, all the explanation, what is happening and everything. Okay, so now let's go to our third demo, which is the entitlement management catalog and access package. Before I go, let me again open this and show you that the code and everything is here. It's a Microsoft Graph PowerShell script. So I have my values and everything associated, and you can basically, you just need to change the values out here. I've kept it so that you get an idea, and then everything works fine. Rest you don't even have to touch the script. So this is the beauty of having the framework ready. And then you have the blog link here. And if you want to read from here, if you don't want to go to the blog link, you can always come here and read the documentation, that what it does and everything. As I'm talking about my blog, just before I go to my third demo, I would like to show you that this is my blog. You see that this is Arundham Mitra, and I have all my blog posts out here. So feel free to have a read and everything. So everything is out here. Have a look if you find something interesting. I'll be glad. Okay, so then I am now going for my third demo, which is the entitlement management catalog and access package. Okay, so let's go there. So I will now, what I will do is, I will just start this one. And what I will do is, I have ran this script, so I have it in my shortcuts. So this is my thing, and then just run it. And we see that what happens. So, when I created the catalog and access package, I have to also additionally create few AAD groups, where I have to assign the catalog, like those AAD groups to my catalog as for roles and administrator. I saw that, as soon as the AAD groups are created, my script is not able to catch the object ID of the newly AAD created groups. And that is where I had to pause my script. I did a permutation and combination, so somewhere it is between 30 seconds to 50 seconds. So what I did is I just took a thumb rule, I placed it 60 seconds, which is close to one, maybe just 1 minute. So that is why, it is a little bit, annoying, but I couldn't find a better solution that, how to address that. So I paused the script for 60 seconds. Okay, so everything is getting created and perfect. So what I will do is now I will minimize this and then I will just go to my Active Directory. Okay, when I go here, you have to go to Identity and Governance. And in the Identity and Governance, you will see that, you will see the catalog. You'll click on catalog, and then you will see that I have created one AM lab, and it has one access package and one resource. So this access package got created, AM lab with a description. This is a catalog. Once you go inside the catalog, then you see that in this catalog, you have to onboard the AAD groups, which you want to use it in the access package. So this is the test AAD group, which was like beforehand created. It is not created with the script. It was created before. We are just consuming it. So I just onboarded this group to my catalog. Then I go to my roles and administrator, and you see that I created 4 groups: catalog owner, reader, access package manager, assignment manager. Once I have created this, and then I assign them as catalog owner, catalog reader. So you see that each of these is assigned a role. Catalog owner has owner role, reader has reader, access package manager, access package assignment manager. So I did that. And then I created access package, this access package with a description. And once I created the access package, you see that the role or the group which I had onboarded in my catalog, I have added that group to my access package. Okay. And then for every access package, you have to create a policy. And this is my policy. If you click on this one, you have to click on edit. Once you click on edit, let me reduce the font a little bit. Yeah. Once you click the edit button, you will see that what policies I have configured. So this is the name and the description. Then if you go to request, this is a direct assignment, and I have enabled for new request. This is done. Then if I go to the requester information, there is nothing. I have kept it default. The most important is the life cycle. So anybody who has been assigned a membership in an AAD group using the access package assignment, if they are not removed, they will by default have access till 365 days. Then users can also request for a specific timeline, which means that, whenever any of my engineers assigning or the application was assigning themselves, they can always provide a time frame. If they don't provide any time frame, it is by default 365. And then, allow users to extend the access. We have given the flexibility that the user can request for or to extend access. And then for the access review, we said that, okay, we don't need it. But of course, in production, you might need an access review. So I created this whole thing, and that is how is our access package and catalog working. Okay. And finally, I will come to this part, which is the resource group blueprint. As I said that, when you are onboarding a project to Azure, not only create a resource group, but there are a lot of common services which are used by every project. And that is why I created a small resource group blueprint, and this is a demo which I'm going to show you. So I will now go to my this one. So you see that I have created those Terraform modules. So 01 is my module and 02 is my deploy. And then I will be running four things. One, I will be running prereq. The prereq is nothing but I'm just creating few AAD groups which I will be using later. Then I am, so this is the prereq. Then I will be using, let me close this so that you have a better view. So then I will be deploying the network part. Why I have to deploy the network part? Because when I will be deploying a key vault, I will be the VNet integration and everything. I will be doing it. So that is why I need the network blueprint. And then eventually I will just deploy the resource group blueprint. So this is just an order to show that how everything is linked and how you can do it. But this is just like for a demo purpose, but you can do a lot more when you're doing. So you can see that I'm in prereq. So what I will do is I will do a Terraform init. Okay. Okay, so now initialized. Now what I'll do is let me see that if I have the command available, because then I don't have to type in. I'm pretty sure I just have to navigate. Yes, so this is my plan. And I'm passing the TFR files because it is not Terraform.tfrs, but I have need change the name, and that is why I have to provide the name. So I will just run the plan. You see that I'm creating basically two groups, and that is why it is saying the plan is going to add two groups. Okay. Now, what I will do is I will just change the plan to apply. I will run it. I didn't do auto approve and hence it will ask me yes, but this is okay. I'm just running. I just want to run and show the code. Okay, I'll just put yes. So, I will provide all this code in my GitHub repo and then you can check it out. Again, conscious of time, I have to show it, so I don't have all the time to explain, but I'm just giving you the concept. I will make the code, PowerPoint, everything available. Feel free to try at your own time. Uh, don't feel that, I am not taking the time to explain, but, it will take a little bit more time. So now this is done. So now I will get out of this directory and I will just log into my next directory, which is the network blueprint. Okay, so what I will do is now I will just do a Terraform init again, because I browsed to different folders. So I have to initialize the Terraform again. Perfect. And then I see that if I can find the same like prereq, if I can find that this one, yep, I found it. So this is a network one. So I can just expand my this, and let's run this one. Okay, so you see that I have 25 resources which are getting added. Okay, and I will show you that how it is getting added. So what I will do is, since it will take some time to add, what I will do is I will show you that what AAD group I created from the first one. and then we will come back and then we see. Okay, I will just first apply it. Okay, so now since it will keep on running, I will just minimize this one and I will simply go to my this here, because in the first one, I showed you that it needs to create some groups. So I will click on groups and then you will see that I have created, it is taking some, I don't know, I have like test admin and test ops. These are the two groups which got created. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. And then, what I will show you is I will simply keep it ready here. And I will just go here. So this is my resource group. And this is my resource group. And this is my network RG where things are going to get created. So you see that it is already getting created, but let's see what happened. It is still creating. Okay, so it gave me some error. Aha, okay. So this error is like, it's really understandable if you see that it is just saying that, these resources already exist and I need to import it in a Terraform state file. It's just because I ran the script before and, I forgot to do the cleanup. That is why, but it shouldn't be a problem. So let me go back to the portal where I can show you everything. So let me refresh this page so that, everything gets populated. Perfect. So you see that, these are the private DNS zones. So let's start with the virtual network. I have this virtual network. I have this address space. So I have like, two address space out here. I have created subnets. Okay. You see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and depending upon subnets, um, I have those delegations. So I created one subnet for web app. So for that web app, you need to have a subnet with the delegation. Later on, I also want to create Databricks. So that is why I have delegation for Databricks public and private subnet. And then each of the, you see that for Databricks, I have created those NSGs too. And then, for every subnet, I have associated the route table. So this is about from here. Let's go to the resource group itself. In the resource group, you will see that I have created those NSG here and everything. So that has been created, the Databricks NSG. I have created one NSG and that is mapped to both public and private subnet of Databricks. And then, this is my VNet, this is my route table, and these are all my private endpoint DNS. These were existing, that is why it threw an error. But if you go to the private endpoint DNS, and if you click on the virtual network links, you will see that, I have already attached my VNet, my test VNet to this particular private DNS zone, private endpoint DNS zone. So this is exactly the thing, which I was telling you that, this is the part, this. And the final part now, I will run the last part, because these are all tightly clubbed to the resource group blueprint, is the is now we are going to run the resource group blueprint. Okay, cd. Okay, okay, let's do this. Terraform init. Okay, perfect. And let me find that feature. It should be here. Yeah. So I will just use this one. I'll just run the plan for IaC. Perfect. And you see that there are 5 resources which are getting created. And I'll show you. So as soon. So this is my final part of my demo. Apply. Okay, so let's put it yes, and let's see. So as you can see that, resource group, log analytics, key vault all are getting created. I only took 3, just being conscious of time. And then in the key vault, I'm attaching the network part, which we'll have a look. Okay, so Cree Vault is taking some time. So in the meanwhile, what we can do is we can start checking it. And if I refresh this, you will see that EMRG got created. And in the EMRG, I have this log analytics, and then my key vault is now getting created. The only thing which we will see in the key vault is that we have configured the access policies of the key vault, and then we have also configured the VNet integration and the firewall rules. so that it's well protected. That is where I think it is taking. Oh, it got completed. Fantastic. So let me do that. Let me refresh it. Let refresh. Okay, and then I will click on this one. If I go to the access policy, you remember that I created in the prereq, test admin and test ops. This is exactly I'm using it. And then if I go to the networking part, you see that I have certain firewall rules configured here. And why is my NVNet not being showing? Let me refresh it. Okay. It's strange because ideally it should attach a VNet, but maybe the refresh is taking a little bit time. Okay, but I see that I have this options and I have the firewall rules available. So I think most of the things has been completed. I will check all the codes. I will rerun everything before I publish it so that you don't get any error, you don't face any error. But hopefully, everything should work fine. Again, just to mention that I will now reduce the font a little bit so that you have everything in. So you can see that this is a repo where you're going to have everything. In a day or two, I will be uploading the slides and everything, and I'll make sure that all the codes and everything is available. Have a look, go through it. Uh, Again, huge call out to Azure Zero User Group for providing the opportunity and to present in the Global Azure event. That's all I think, from my side. I will just now stop sharing, and now um, I will see that, so that's all, so I have nothing else to add. So again, thank you. This is all I wanted to show and present. I hope you like it. And until next time, if you have any comments, anything, please do write me. All details are there. Then have a good weekend, a relaxing weekend, and then we see each other, whenever we can or whenever I'm presenting. Thank you so much.